Hey yo, and welcome to another chess video. We're going to look at another game from round 7 of the Tata Steel Chess Masters. And I believe this is actually one of the games of the tournament so far. Hopefully we will get a better game, but this could be the one. And yes, the game is between Teimour Radjabov from Azerbaijan and Vidit from India. And they're both having a solid tournament. Radjabov before this game had drawn all his games, while Vidit is on +1 after beating Van Forest. I think we analyzed that game. If we did, then I'll leave a link above. But we're going to go on to this game. So Radjabov had the white pieces. Very strong player from Azerbaijan, who sort of resurrecting his career. It seemed for a while that, well, he, not like he was retired, but he sort of, didn't play as much, got married and lost a lot of rating, but he's been coming back and really strong, up to close to 2760 now. And yeah, he belongs among the absolute world best players. Fantastic player. And as a very young player, he managed to beat Kasparov. So he's no slouch. We'll leave it at that. But anyway, Radjabov with white, and he opens with d4. We have knight f6. We transpose to a queen's gambit. And with bishop b4, we have the Rogozin defense by Vidit. Now Radjabov goes for this line with queen to a4. And this, of course, forces knight c6, because otherwise the bishop would be simply lost. So knight c6, e3, wants to get the bishop out. Eventually, black castles, and now queen c2. So you see that white doesn't mind losing time playing queen a4 and then going back to c2. The reason is that this knight is a little bit misplaced. It doesn't have any good squares to go to. Occupied, can't go. Occupied, not a good square, and this blocks his c-pawn, which he would generally like to move in the queen's gambit, either to c6 or for counterplay with c5. So white doesn't mind the time lost. Black plays rook e8, bishop to d2, and bishop back to d6. So with the moves rook e8 and bishop d6, Black's main idea is to take on c4 and then to play e5, trying to free his game. And here we start a little bit of a waiting move game. The thing is, yeah, black wants to take, but he wants to wait for white to move his bishop and then have to spend 2 moves to take the pawn. So instead of moving the bishop, Radjabov plays a waiting move here, h3. But black can also play a waiting move, and he does with a6. White insists, he plays a3. So in general, these are like moves that we don't recommend to beginners, because usually they're not necessary, but here they are useful. I mean, they're taking away squares, and they serve a higher purpose in this waiting game with the bishop. So white is trying to insist. And here black plays bishop d7. h6 is also a move that has been played plenty of times, but bishop d7 was played by Vidit. And now finally white kind of has to crack, and Radjabov does so with bishop e2, and Vidit promptly takes on c4. So bishop takes back, and now h6. Yeah, we already said that the main idea of this line, of these moves and this line, bishop d6 and rook e8, is to play e5. But if you do so immediately, you might have some problems after knight g5 when it's getting difficult to cover the f7 square, and you might have some issues with this as well. Maybe some knight d5 moves or knight e4 moves trying to undermine this. So black prefers to play h6 first, and he wants to play e5. Now here Radjabov played a novelty, and he thought for a while actually. The previous games that reached this position, high-level games between Aronian and Giri and Tim and Leko, both saw white castling and then black playing e5, and those games both ended in a draw. But Radjabov had different ideas. Perhaps feeling ambitious on the day, having drawn all his games, maybe he felt that it was time for him to make a move, and he had to go for it to move up in the standings, and well, go for it he did. He played g4, a very aggressive novelty, more or less abandoning any ideas of castling kingside, because it's clear that white wants to push g5 and then use the g file for an attack. Usually when you see a flank push like this, the sort of stock standard way to counter that is to strike in the center, and Vidit does that with e5. Again, Radjabov insists g5, b5, and the bishop retreats to a2. White could take on f6, but I have a feeling there should be something wrong there. Let's have a look. I don't think it's. I'm wondering if we take it with the queen, then bishop e2. No, it's probably just takes. Yeah, the thing is, we don't have time for rook g1 because queen takes f6, and we don't have time for this because of takes here. So yeah, so after b5, Radjabov retreated to a2, and now Vidit took on d4. Again, it's tempted to take on f6, but here black can actually just take with the queen on f6. Radjabov didn't play this, and this would hit the knight on f3, and the c3 knight is also hanging, so black would be doing absolutely fine here. The queen is, yeah, defending the king side. White doesn't have any big attack, so instead Radjabov went for the alpha zero, like g takes h6. There was one game in the alpha zero against Stockers match where alpha zero played in a really similar manner, sacking a piece and taking on h6. And yeah, one wonders if these alpha zero games are inspiring some new ideas in chess. Maybe they are. Here Vidit took on c3, but computers confirm that bishop f4 was probably the best defense. One key idea is that the very tempting bishop g6, utilizing the pin on the pawn, the queen can't be captured with running mate. Black can play bishop takes h6, and even though white can take with check, white doesn't have a good continuation here. The knight is under attack, and you don't have time to take here because bishop takes, attacking the queen, then the knight falls. But after bishop f4, long castles, white still keeps the upper hand, probably after a line like this. Although it's probably close to being equal according to the computer, but it's very imbalanced, so I think anything can happen here still. But Vidit, he took the piece, the principal choice. Radjabov has to take back, bishop takes c3, and now bishop to e6. And here, yeah, Radjabov had a very strong move in rook g1. He took on e6, but the rook g1 is very strong. If black takes, we take on g7. Here we have a pleasant choice. Long castles actually is very cool, and black is actually just toasting those lines, but rook takes a2 is a very sober move, which leaves white firmly ahead. He's down a piece, but the bad position of the king and the danger of this h pawn is too much for black to cope with. But Radjabov took on e6 and then played rook g1. And here was yeah, probably a moment where black could have put up a bit more fight with knight h5. He did play knight to e8, but knight h5 could have become really complicated after bishop takes g7. Black has a fantastic move here in bishop g3, which throws a spanner in the works, and yeah, white would have to find some very good moves to keep an advantage here. Note that f takes g3 is met with knight takes g7. A very nice line here, eliminating the bishop, and you'll see why in a minute. Now we take on e3. The king has to protect the knight, but now we take the knight, and now you see why we have to eliminate the bishop first. It was covering the d4 square, and now we have this deadly knight d4. So rook takes f3 actually wins a piece. So let's go back. But knight h5 wasn't played. Knight d8 was played in the game. Radjabov took on g7. And now very nasty threat of simply playing h7, which is checkmate because the bishop is covered by the rook. Very nasty. So Vidit takes on g7, rook takes check. You have to go to f8 because there's mate here with the queen if you go to the corner. So king f8, queen h7 nonetheless. Now we're threatening simply to take here and give mate on g8. So queen f6 covering f7. But white insists with knight g5. And here, like, yeah, in most proper good games, black puts up a fight, and here he finds a fantastic resource which almost spoils this game. He plays rook takes e3. First glance, this doesn't look like much. If you take, which Radjabov didn't do, then bishop g3 check. Now it turns out if you go to the second rank, the queen takes on b2, and white is actually in trouble and getting mated. And if you go to d1, we can play queen to f1, and the queen will rotate between f1 and c4, giving checks, and this is a perpetual check. So king c2, queen c4, king b1, queen f1, king a2, queen c4, etc. But white has one winning move, and Radjabov calmly played king to f1. Now we have a big attack on f7 with the rook, the knight and the queen, so this has to be defended. Note that this is not a defense because of, well, 3 mates in 1, 2 and 3. So at the king f1, knight to d8, queen g8 check, king e7, and the pawn is ready to run. Radjabov still had to keep things under control because after bishop g3, it looks like, did I forget about things over there? I don't have any defenders. I'm getting mated. Almost, but we do have knight e4, which hits the queen, covers the mate, and uncorks discovered attack on the bishop. Black takes and rook takes g3. So now we're threatening the queen. The knight can't move because this is hanging. So rook h4 to stop the pawn. But now the last piece comes into the game, rook to d1. And yeah, the threat is rook e3 check, followed by taking this guy over here. So black plays rook takes h7. And okay, we can take on h7, but rook e3 and taking the rook on a8 looks better. Because now we have control over the 8th rank, and yeah, this guy doesn't stand really well. White is not the exchange, but unfortunately for black, there are multiple threats here. Now he's trying to take on c7. King f8 was played, which is, well, not a blunder, but allows a very nice finish by Radjabov. Another sacrifice, he now takes on e6, rook takes, and yeah, that's all she wrote. Vidit took with the queen, and this allows rook to d8 check, king g7. Otherwise we can take on e6 and take the rook. So king e7 we take here, and then take the rook on h8. So king to g7, but then queen c3 check. Rook is under attack, so we have to interpose the pawn. You can't interpose the queen. I will take it, but if after you play that, queen takes e7, game over, resigns. Queen f7, I take it and then take the rook, and if the king moves, I still take the rook. So only thing that remains is, yeah, after rook takes e6, f takes e6, and I actually haven't checked with the computer what should be played here, but this looks fairly good because we're threatening rook here, and if he plays king to e8, probably just rook d7 should be enough, and the next move is queen c8, and this game is over. So yeah, a very nice game by Radjabov, who moves to +1 within striking distance of the +2 group at the top. And meanwhile, we did okay. He's on an even score. Could be worse, could be better, but still 6 rounds left to play, and yeah, big pack at the top. So I'm sure we are in for a nice few final rounds, and I will see you in the next video, guys. Thank you for watching. Once again, subscribe if you haven't. Always appreciate a like, and there's another video up there. Bye bye.